It's a Hirai thing, right? You could see him. He's right there on top of Cuzz's PC looking at these calls. I expect this will be the Tahm Kench is the safe ban, right? They'll take away the Jace first. And this really limits the range and the amount of poke that DWG KIA can have with this Jinx comp, because even though Jin technically can outrange Jinx, Jinx with her very consistent poke damage with a Jace as well as a LeBlanc that can harass can be a big problem. DWG KIA here, I mean, Aria has a pretty wide set of champions he likes to play, so it's very difficult to target him, although teams usually
target Rascal.
Yeah.
Take him off of as much comfort as possible. It's where you're going to have the most issues, I think.
Sort of a handshake, right? Like, they ban the Jace, you're feeling like they're looking towards the Gwen, the Gwen gets banned. So the Thresh will be banned, leaving only the Tahm Kench, which, you know, I don't know if Kellin will play it or not here. It's so common. I'm personally not a big fan of it in this composition. And in terms of top lane control here, you might just want to ban out the Graves. Be a great blind pick here for Rascal. Could build early Hullbreaker and become unstoppable. Could survive through a lot of that early game extremely well and become a very big menace in the late game. But they decide to take away the Camille here, which is really interesting because there's nothing yet in terms of mid-control or mid-prio to pair with that. I don't think it'd be something that KT would be interested in picking up blind.
Silas considered, Zoe also considered. Stuff you can pick into the LeBlanc in the mid lane. Zoe getting more and more popular. This is something that you and I were calling for, the Vex. I think it was yesterday. Yeah. And it will be locked in once again. I feel like it's a great neutralizer pick into the LeBlanc. Has a lot of proactivity that you can do yourself, especially in team fights. And Aria will play it here in game 2.
Yeah, it's a really soft, nice soft counter to LeBlanc, but has a lot of long-range gauge. Plays extremely well with the Yuumi, as Chovy showcased.
Yeah.
That was kind of an eye-opener for me in that particular Gen G series a few days ago. Was this does leave the Graves to Burdol, and that's one thing you lose with picking the Vex here, because in terms of counter picks to Graves right now, there isn't a whole lot of opportunity, right? You don't have a lot of champions that can really stomp on him. Tryndamere is open. We see this picked into Graves. We also see Graves picked into Tryndamere. I think that will be KT's choice, because you have the Vex that can engage from long range. You have Jin and Tryndamere on top of any of these backline targets. You can blow them up very quickly. So this will help mitigate some of that, the Rakan pick to come through. If it's not going to be the Tryndamere here, I mean, there's not a whole lot of other options, and it will be the Tryndamere. I was going to say maybe Gragas for some strong engage, but I like this pick a lot more.
Yeah, also quite good with the Yuumi if we do have Tryndamere coming into the team fights. And we have seen that more and more. You know, in the past, I think when... Yeah, absolutely. We're going to jump on to the Rift here for game number 2. DWG KIA versus KT Rolster. And, you know, coming into today, I think a lot of us were expecting Dalmon to take this one. Shout out to Alice. He said KT 2-0.
Yeah, that was his prediction is serious or not. I don't know, but he did say that right before we came into this series.
Offhand banner, but, you know, it still counts, at least when it's, you know, a good one.
We'll give him credit for it if he's right, you know?
Yeah, and after game 1, I'm like, you know what? Maybe he was right. I think Dalmon KIA definitely underperformed and KT overperformed. So this is where we're at. KT proving that, hey, I mean, Dalmon KIA aren't all that strong nowadays, and we are a strong team. We deserve to stay here on the west side of the bracket, and it definitely could happen after today, that is for sure. DRX lost their last game, so Dalmon KIA trying to catch up to them and try to get into 3rd place if they do tie, because Dalmon KIA have better game score. But not looking too good so far, because if they're going to win, they have to win in 3 games, and they haven't won a 3rd game yet.
Yep, 0-4 in that regard. Those are all of their losses, in fact, were in those game 3s. So I don't believe in curses or jinxes, but again, 3 of those losses were against really, really strong teams, right? And I mean, I guess you could put DRX in that basket now too, because they seem to actually be a really strong team. We'll see if KT can actually keep the momentum up, because that's also something that we haven't been able to say about them. Is Jinx is on a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah,
at the moment.
It's a very sad
Def 2L.
Yeah, Deft, he had, I think it was 47-4 is what he got to, and now I think it's 47-6, unfortunately.
Still incredible win rate, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's insane, and he's still a fantastic Jinx player. I was watching him a lot in those team fights because he was trying his hardest, but it was basically only him. And that was about it. League of Legends, a 5-person team game, but we'll see if he can raise those stats. But yeah, Jinx, not really on a great spree this time around. Doesn't mean that she's bad, just the way it's going nowadays.
I want to point out Cuzz is 4-0 on this Xinjiao, which has had such an incredible win rate, and it feels like his priority has not matched how powerful he's been. Like you were talking about in the draft, DWG KIA could have picked this for Canyon. And Canyon just seems to play what he wants, right? You know, we saw the pick last time where he was able to pick up the Graves, didn't go so well. Speaking of Graves, 2-5 in this matchup, but Burdol's 3-1 on the champion. The way that DWG KIA have drafted around Canyon has felt in some ways like a strength, but in their last few losses, somewhat like a crutch in a few ways. So we'll see how he performs on this Lee Sin. I think it's a much better pick for the draft than like the odd Dianas and Graves we've seen the last few games.
Yeah, it's important to get something that mixes well with the draft, for sure. ShowMaker has played actually a pretty hefty amount of LeBlanc, considering his career. So that's pretty nice. 27 games total, 19-8. Not half bad. Trying to raise that LeBlanc win rate you were talking about before.
LeBlanc's on our 10-year anniversary. You know, he's a very big LeBlanc maniac. And the guy is just so incredible at such a wide variety of champions, but when you have a champion that he's really good at that's also extremely meta like this and it's given to him, this game might just be defined by the fact that he is one of our strongest LeBlanc players. Like players like Chovy, right, BDD, they get this champion, and the game could be entirely about a pick they get at 30 minutes because their game sense is just so much better. Here's that Jin Chao roam we were talking about, the gank for the top side.
Oh boy. Ghost already used, and Burdol's going the wrong way because he knows that there's a very low chance that he's getting out of this one. Over the wall comes Cuzz. Burdol with a really nice dash back over the wall, but there's the flash as Rakan comes in. Kellin's here from the bottom lane. It's not going to matter.
He loses his flash, too.
Yeah, that is a huge win here for KT Rolster.
You cannot, this is exactly what I was talking about in the draft. This is exactly like, the problem that happens is you have bottom side controlled. You got the Yuumi Jin lane. You identify, okay, Kellin's missing. He's gone, so we have complete control over this lane. There's no way they're going to be able to make a gank happen here, so you can keep pushing here. If Canyon Path's top pre-6, you can walk away from that fight. You don't care. Doesn't matter. And if Kellin shows up, it's going to be so late, it doesn't matter. And the only way this goes wrong for Rascal and Cuzz is if Kellin is here way faster, but they knew exactly when he left. So they knew that if he's going to show up, it's going to be too late, right? And Burdol, this is not being communicated to him. As we talked about last game, the team is not telling Burdol, like, yo, stay back in lane, play it passive. We don't know where Cuzz is. I'm not here on the bottom side, so we can't make a counterplay. Like, there's no, 3v2 to be had down there against that Yuumi Jin lane. So even with the heroics here from Kellin, it ends up backfiring. It, buys time, but then he loses his flash. Meanwhile...
Yeah, okay, we didn't get a look at that, but I would assume that Canyon just had a read on where Cuzz was going to go next, and he was able to take him down. So Canyon trying to win this one back for his team. Actually going to stop the backs here as he is backing himself.
How close is he to 6 is the real question. I'd like to see Rascal clicked on.
Yeah, looks like Rascal trying to survive here. Canyon is going to take that last shot. Even flashes after he was out of range. The damage is not coming out here. The Q will go in and just barely they are able to pull off that dive.
Rascal outplayed that so hard, though. I was like, DWG KIA did not look clean on that engage. They do force it to happen, and at the end, they do juggle that aggro as aiming. Scary moment there for a second for the bot duo. But Rascal absorbed a lot of pressure here, and the bot pressure that continues with this is still immense. So we have to go all the way back to Cuzz getting picked, because that's what starts this off, and we will get a replay of it shortly, probably right after he takes the streak. Because my estimation is that he didn't back after he got that kill and was just punished, as you were saying, by Canyon identifying where he was pathing to. Because that puts Rascal into, this awkward spot on the top side of the map. Is just going to go over here and take him while he's on Raptors.
This is not what I expected to see.
Yeah.
Cuzz is like desperately trying to start this fight and get the Raptor, and Canyon he's like, no, I'm just gonna skirmish better than you. Lee Sin.
Yeah, Lee Sin, obviously with the Q execute damage there. So obviously now Rascal is stuck here. He couldn't really complete his back because it would have been shut down as Canyon has had to flash, doesn't end up hitting the Q. If he doesn't hit that Q, like the way the Tryndamere is going to be feeling is amazing, because then he hits 6, he's going to be fine. He just sits up there on the top lane. Speaking of, he has now gotten that level 6, but he's a little bit behind in experience because of the death. So still not a good place for Burdol to be in. Not the lead he would have liked to have.
It's a great read from ShowMaker. He's going to hold that ult, is able to mimic Distortion away. And, you know, ShowMaker's doing a great job in the mid lane at the same time, right? Aria has been, quote-unquote, neutralizing, but, you know, even if you don't die, if you go down 20 CS, that's also losing. So we'll see if he can handle it a little bit better. We talked about a lot of the synergy that the Yumi will have with this composition, and Life has come up here to help fight for this first Rift Herald.
This is really cool for KT because they threatened the bot plates. They forced Damwon Kia to respond here, and Damwon Kia already started this, so they were kind of trapped into this situation, and now Jin is rotating up very slowly, albeit, but he will be here in time to contest. Tryndamere still has ult. This is a great fight for KT's comp if they can set up the engage. Here comes Rascal.
Rascal is getting chunked out as we speak. ShowMaker and Kellin doing a good job of zoning away aiming as we speak as well. Cuzz trying to get on this fight, though. He gets on top of deokdam. The Jinx left all alone as ShowMaker tries to get the kill onto aiming, but they cannot return it. Finally, the burn will go down, and they do get aiming, but there is just so much that is going into the pockets of KT. The one saving grace, Damwon did pick up the Rift Herald, and they'll look to push it down the mid lane.
Yeah, they will be able to drop that one right away. So that's a huge win here for Damwon Kia. I think at the end of the day, this favors them quite heavily, even though I think the risk of this decision was extremely high. Is going to see the Rift Herald dropped here, of course. It was picked up by ShowMaker. We'll just grab a ton of solo gold here in the mid lane, as Cuzz in more danger than he realizes.
And they're right around the corner. The knockup comes in, and Cuzz is dead. No flash, no crescent guard, no anything. So actually, a huge set of plays here for Damwon Kia, as they will get a 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, so they get the Rift Herald, they get the plates for the LeBlanc, who's already 25 CS ahead, as you were pointing out. They're really hurting Aria's ability to grab gold. Then aiming also died, so lost control of his lane. So he's also now going to lose a plate over to deokdam. Comes over there. He died first and is going to be able to return to the lane faster. So just wins across the board here. Even though KT Rolster traded back some kills, their team fighting composition at the first Herald should be good enough to actually dominate this and win it. But unfortunately, they're a little bit late to the party. And as you mentioned, Rascal was extremely low. He does finally close the gap onto deokdam and take him out. But if he's able to come in here at full health and be relevant throughout the entirety of the fight, it's a very different story. So Burdol really hurting his ability to come in to the fight on time.
In live, yeah, Rascal's going to get this kill. Add another solo kill onto his record, as he just can't get enough of those solo kills.
He just gets another one. Nope.
Would not have killed him anyway.
But we like to watch those soar. Well, you know, as I was saying, Burdol put Rascal down, eliminated his ability to team fight perfectly there. He had to be a little bit more passively heal up before he came in. Not in the 1v1. He flashes on him, will take him out. Burdol just now respawning. And the side laning a Tryndamere could do versus a Graves can be extremely deadly. Burdol's thinking as Lucky Stars, he has teleport at least this game. That's going to keep him relevant later on as Aria finds himself the target here. Respect being shown like crazy here for him, though.
Yeah, he knows he's under pressure, and Cuzz is there, but that's not enough to stop the three of them getting on top of him, especially Lee Sin and Rakan and LeBlanc from the mid lane. Now, every single kill has gone into the pockets of Canyon, except I suppose the one that went to Burdol. But 4-0 Lee Sin, it's going to be a lot of early game power.
And that's why you use it, right? I mean, that's why you non-stop put the pressure on these fragile laners. You put it onto Aria in this case. He goes down because he's just not able to survive if he's dove upon. With the Lee Sin that is so far ahead, it's actually even in levels with him right now. And the follow-up Rakan. Like, Rakan, when given the opportunity to roam with a Lee Sin against anybody who's, doesn't really have an escape in the mid lane is so problematic. Because Rascal, he has ult, and he's going to go for it. I love the Tryndamere gaming. Got him. That's what he said.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more complex here. Is I like ShowMaker's follow there towards the left side to make sure there's no out whatsoever. And even though Cuzz was there, and even though Aria showed the respect, just too much damage, and he's really getting shut down in this early game. Once again.
Yeah, this is not the Vex versus LeBlanc gameplay that you want to see. Actually, the biggest lead is there over to ShowMaker. Of course, he did get a lot of plates with the Rift Herald, and that was all solo gold, so definitely filling the pockets right now of ShowMaker. And yeah, he knows how to carry, that's for sure. So
it's just starting to become a little bit of a worry for KT that their strongest point is a Tryndamere who, yes, will be relevant later on. But if you compare where the gold leads are here, ShowMaker's going to be relevant all game long, but right now he could start turning great fights. Like, they've already matched it 1-for-1 now, and he's in a position where he can threaten Aria, he can threaten life when he's detached, right, if he's trying to roam. But basically, he can kill aiming or Aria if he finds them, or he can put them so low that they're irrelevant before a fight happens. And because he is winning this hard, hold that thought.
Oh, he's going for the kill. You can see Burdol, he misses the dive over the wall, and the ultimate will just barely get Rascal to safety. Make that 2 solo kills in the 1 game.
Well, he bought a hull breaker now, but he's unfortunately 2 solo kills too late for that one to get the maximum amount of value. Forget everything I was saying about ShowMaker right now. The whole focus is going to be on Rascal, and this is what I said before this series started. You were talking about it's been like one of our points of the match, right? Is, okay, Rascal, biggest solo killer in the LCK, our best top laner right now, versus an inexperienced one who often struggles in the laning phase. Rascal has been given 2 games in a row an opportunity with these matchups to dominate. Yes, there was the error, as I talked over what he said, so I don't know what he said before this, but... and I believe Jason just told me he thinks he should be able to get the kill here.
Lee Sin should be around
top. Okay. And yeah, he messes up the going over the wall, and Rascal just walks out. You hear the casters in the background. But this Tryndamere is now, a big threat for deokdam. And the positioning will have to be very, very safe as ShowMaker nearby.
Rascal's like, yeah, I'm not going to face check that one. I think I'll hold on to my lead and not give over a shutdown. As no flash, no ghost, no ultimate available for him. As aiming on the chase has a lot of help down there. Just a little bit of a trade of turrets as we do see here. That first Hex Tech break is going to be very nice for the side of KT Rolster. Have a decent amount of auto attackers there as Aria once again is getting dove upon. This mid lane matchup still not pretty.
I'm a little bit worried here for KT because of the Vex situation, right, versus ShowMaker. And this is what I was kind of getting at before Rascal got another solo kill, is that ShowMaker will be able to do a lot of things. He already is online. He just gets scarier and scarier later. Vex can't catch up very well. For the same reason that Veigar can't. Remember last game, Veigar couldn't farm very freely. If they end up losing this mid-turret early, as it looks very likely to happen, then they are not going to be able to have a Vex farming to catch up. I don't know about this one.
That's okay. Stop the backs.
And so the gold lead that Tryndamere has is great, but is it as valuable as the gold lead that ShowMaker has on a champion that will be able to threaten kills, will be able to harass with this Ludens, The answer is no. So they need to use Rascal's lead to get kills elsewhere. They need to set up kills for Aria, set up kills for aiming around these objective fights, and it feels like now KT have a choice between side lane forever for Rascal and try to control how much gold goes into this Tryndamere and how much structure damage he gets done, or bring him to every fight because he doesn't have teleport and fight on every Drake 5v5 and hope that you get enough gold on your carries. And I think neither choice is very great. And Damwon Kia can play around whatever choice KT makes, right? Because they have teleport on their graves, so they can side lane if it's going to be a fight they don't want to take. And then if it's a fight that, Rascal's not there for, they just 5v4 it, right? So Damwon Kia have a really nice amount of flexibility with what they can do with the small lead they have. It's a big lead on the LeBlanc. Small gold lead, but big lead in terms of comp. Now that turret's down.
Yeah, really trying to punish anyone that is sticking around here. KT as well, they need to figure out how to deal with this amount of intense dive. You're going into Lee Sin, LeBlanc, and Rakan. So not much you can do if you're out of position, right? A Yuumi can only do so much to stop all of that. As here comes Rascal. He's already in the pit, and he doesn't care about the Drake at all. He's just trying to chop down Canyon. And it's overall not too successful. I mean, he does a little bit of damage, but Damwon Kia, they get that one. And the teleport to the top side for ShowMaker just to refix the lanes.
Aria's got a Yuumi attached to him. He has some extra mobility, but his damage isn't there yet to threaten, as aiming has to be so careful about playing this far forward. Like, Canyon is around, had vision in the river, but they did not know that he could pop over that wall at any time. But in fights like this, you could see that they made the decision to bring Rascal. They wanted to look for the 5v5. Damwon Kia just zoned out the carries with a LeBlanc alone. And then Trinimir's like, I am doing something. And Lee Sin just walks away. He's like, I got the Drake because you don't have Smite, and I'm going to walk away.
Smite Trinimir, the next meta pick.
Oh, please. But seriously, Damwon Kia they have all the choices they can make, right? And KT's going to have to make some tough calls. And that last one, I think was the right choice, but Damwon Kia played it better.
Yeah, it is Mountain Soul that is coming up here, and yeah, you're going to be building a decent amount of resistances on the side of Damwon Kia. Not an intense amount, but definitely some to get the value out of those Drakes, and then potentially the Mountain Soul that will come through. KT, I think, will have to eventually fight into that. I mean, you're already a little bit low on damage with the Jhin. Obviously, Rascal is going to be chopping down alone in the side lane, but in terms of like the team fighting, you have a lot of burst damage, but a lot of that can be negated from the Mountain Soul. So would expect some fights over that objective.
Oh, 100%. Like, KT, I think, needs to fight nonstop now because all their gold lead is on this Tryndamere, who, I mean, he can be shut down pretty easily, especially when all these turrets keep getting removed from the map. Damwon Kia looking for the third now with this Rift Herald crash. Rascal, I mean, he's got nothing to sit on.
And they're going in on this one. It is a Tryndamere, and so at the end of the day, he will get away with a rocket, does sail wide, and Rascal just barely going to survive through the Ignite. Thank you, Yuumi, once again.
But, you know, I mean, he survives, but there's no trade back, you know? Like, right now, deokdam is getting farm in the enemy jungle on the other side. Like, he's taking the enemy red buff because they have so much control over the map. And everybody runs over to make sure that Rascal barely survives, but the turret still goes down. The map control goes over. And this continues. I mean, this is just disastrous for Aria. Last game he played the Ari, played it very well. They had an early lead. They could play around the pick potential. It was into a Veigar. But against ShowMaker on his LeBlanc, right? We've talked about how famous he is for this pick. We looked at his win rate, how many games he's played. I think it was, what, 27 across his career. Against one of our weaker laners here in the LCK, that lane gap matters in a matchup like this. You have the counter pick, but you can't perform. That's all you the Vex. Just kind of meaningless in this comp for KT, and not a champion, like I said, who can sit back and farm and be relevant later. She's just going to be behind forever now.
Yeah, still waiting for, you know, the Chovy-esque pop-off of something like, what was it, 13 kills in that game, where the Yuumi just sits on the Vex and you go in and blow someone up, and you final chapter them for good measure. Could happen, but again, it's basically you're going to be looking for only Jinx in that case. Not a lot of resistances or survivability on that character specifically. Everybody else has a lot of mobility, a lot of resistances, a lot of ways to get out of that kind of combination. So not really getting much value out of that pick, that is for sure.
I mean, the other thing, too, is that Damwon Kia have so much disengage for this Tryndamere. They have the kick, right? They can chain to root. They have Kellin on this Rakan, who can knock up and lock him down to really slow down his ult. He might have to use it. He will.
Yep. There it is. It is going to be used, and ShowMaker, once again, just going to get a free lane in the top side.
Ignoring the gold lead that the jungle has and that the bot lane has, like, one of these two soul laner leads is more important than the other, right? And I think that's really going to be the story of this game here, is Damwon Kia has so much prio. LeBlanc is pushing an inner turret freely with no threat of anybody punishing her. That means that Damwon Kia should be able to secure a soul point here easy peasy without even KT getting a fair fight. Rascal doesn't have teleport. He can't be here. Guess who does? ShowMaker. If he wanted to be here, if he needs to be here, he can teleport there in a moment's notice. So, problematic here. Damwon Kia also have the ability to give this up if they don't feel like they can take this fight, but they should be able to.
Yeah, I think Damwon are like, sure, let's go, you know? And both teams setting up aggressively, assertively on this objective. So you can see a bit of poke damage going out. Kellin just looking for his angle. Rascal already going to be zoned out to the back.
He has no ult, but it's coming up soon. If he can buy enough time to get that ult back up, then he can actually try to dive onto the carries. Again, well, only one carry is really diveable, as you mentioned. LeBlanc, not so much.
Aiming is frontlining while tanking the dragon. Not sure about that, but...
he's got honey fruit.
Yumi.
He's all right.
There's a Yumi, too. I mean, there's ways for him to sustain up, as there is a bunch of damage already being done to this dragon about halfway down. Aiming going to open up, but Burdol is ghosting in and looking for it, but they burst down Canyon. Down will go the Damwon Kia jungler, and they do pick up that Mountain Drake and maybe a bit more. Here comes Aria on top of Burdol, and all of a sudden, 2 kills and a Drake. KT, they are back in this game.
And the KT knew exactly what they wanted in this team fight. They wanted to burst down the jungler, grab a Drake, and walk away. And then Damwon Kia, instead of being willing to give it up, actually decided to force there. Burdol's death at the end is the really big cherry on top here because he's like, well, I'm screwed, guys. I can't get out of here. This is how it is. But the way that was played from KT was so safe, and they played around the fact that deokdam knew he was going to be the target if they go for a pick, if they go for a play with a Tryndamere. And because he's so far back, but look at where deokdam is standing in this comp. Like, it's incredible how much respect he's showing. Like, he's like, I'm not even going to be in Jin ult range. But unfortunately, because he's not here, there's not enough damage to threaten. Burdol's on the backside here, trying to look for aiming by himself, and ShowMaker was not healthy enough to actually look for a pick 2 during the Jin ultimate. And so, because deokdam was playing so safe, there just isn't enough damage to burst on the Jin. This is aiming's first-person view here. And look at how they zone away the Rakan, who could be the best turn opportunity, and then turn on to the Lee Sin. Like, I want to get this Drake, I want to get this Drake. It's just a very big split.
This is a great play, actually. I love that they focus this. Just to be calm, even when the ghosting Graves is sprinting at you, you're like, no, I'm just going to get a couple more shots, you know, land one on into Canyon, and then we'll turn around. I've got Yumi, I'll be okay. And he's able to get out of that without even using flash. Like, he was totally fine. Excellently played there overall. And just a great team play as well, as you were talking about, from KT Rolster. So now both teams, 2 dragons apiece. They've both got pieces that are fed. This is getting pretty interesting.
I know everybody's eyes are going to be on the 1 in 5 Graves, who is Burdol, who got solo killed several times this game at 4 deaths early. But, you know, I think this was really just a Damwon Kia team mistake. ShowMaker, greedy.
He might just die to Ignite. Red buff. Yep, down he goes as Vex is going to pick up the kill, and that is just wonderful. I mean, you're a Vex. You're so far behind. You get a successful team fight. Then you get a free pick onto the enemy mid laner. I mean, what else would you want right now?
I mean, you're not supposed to be able to get these kills, but you are now, as Damwon Kia don't need another one over. They don't have the threat of this LeBlanc anymore, but they're still looking to group up to deny this early Baron take. It's very greedy what KT are doing, but they're setting up for a pick, right? They have Aria over the wall here. He's unseen. He knows there's no vision.
And they're trying to get on top of Rascal, who is level 15 in this game. Nobody else, you can see all the numbers, like he is 2 levels ahead of everybody else in the game as, well, this is just Canyon, I suppose, trying to get in onto the Baron and maybe get a kill, but that is not going to happen.
So, happy story, though, for Damwon Kia. Happy news is inner turret goes down, they deny the Baron, right? So, it's a fight that is unreasonable to take or win without ShowMaker, but the way they played it was actually very nice, because Canyon's threatening on the other side to potentially get a steal, as we're going all the way back to the ShowMaker pick here. As he looks for the root onto Aria, and is just punished, and, you know, Everfrost is the new build here across basically every mage.
He saw Cuzz.
Yeah.
I thought Cuzz came in after, behind him. That's not what happened.
So Canyon here is trying to make a play to shut down anybody who goes across, maybe even get Aria, because he knows Aria is looking for a flank. That's the one player that Damwon Kia didn't really have any track of. decides to go on top of him, but he wasn't alone. Does end up getting picked.
Yeah. And Aria has a stopwatch and an Everfrost, and he's Vex. I mean, just a strange decision.
And you know,
it's like they woke up on the wrong side of the bed today.
Yeah, it does feel that way to a certain extent. And you know, I said Vex was never going to catch up. Well, if given 3 kills, 7 Dark Seal stacks.
It's like Christmas over here for Vex.
Exactly. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Suddenly, you give a few freebies, and then Yuumi Vex is actually a thing again. And ShowMaker didn't actually maintain his lead because he wasn't able to secure kills. He's actually sitting at 0 right now.
Yeah.
He farmed very well, he laned very well, but then he started getting a little bit greedy in the side lane. And a lot of the gold lead that DWG KIA has is washed away. Or had, rather, I should say.
As ShowMaker, you know, he's trying to get some poke damage. This Mountain Drake is coming up, and every single one is extremely important. Look at the itemization of the mid laners here. Looks like ShowMaker's going to finish Morella Nomicon. Like, I guess against Yuumi, the Oblivion Orb makes sense, but he's going to finish that. He has Shadow Flame into, you know, Mercs, Force of Nature. There's Mountain Drakes on the map. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think he should have just gone for the Void Staff. Aria, he used his lack of gold very efficiently. He has a Void Staff already. And he's going to be ready to chunk some people out now that he's been given all of those nice Christmas presents.
Now, the position here for KT, though, is pretty tough. Aria's down at just under half health, so this is going to be a really difficult fight to win. They may just have to give this off, but looks like they think otherwise, aiming with the ult.
Yeah, they still want to go in for this, but now ShowMaker and Burdol are threatening aiming, and it is more difficult. But at the same time, KT have poked a hole in the defense. They have made their way into the river, as Aria is still on the top side. He is all alone. Doesn't matter what items you have if you're there, as they're trying to burst down the dragon now. Let's see if KT can do it. It's going to come down to a smite, and Canyon will get it. Huge knock-up comes out there in the pit. As KT, they're still trying to fight here. Rascal still on the run, aiming left all alone. Down he will go. As Cuzz, he will have the cat on his back, but I think the both of them are dying.
Canyon lives too. KT get nothing. 0 nilch, not anything at all in this fight. Single kill, not the steal, and they get aced. Big overextension here. I think the call is definitely to walk away after you get hit by all of that damage. The fact that they were so low and still decided to push the issue is actually why we're going to game 3.
Yep, they're going to try to end here, especially with all 5 members available against only Rascal, who does not even have his ultimate ability. As I suppose Christmas this year wasn't very fun for the side of KT, as they threw it all away. DK will pick up the win here in game number 2.